Hey guys, what's up? Matt here from Loon Outdoors, and today we're going to be tying a stimulator variation. The hook of choice for this today is a FW530 size 8 from Ahrex hooks. I'm going to be using Beavis 50D. It is a GSP style thread, and we'll go ahead and start by wrapping down the shank of the hook, pretty much down to where the barb is. Put on a pretty decently solid thread base. Doesn't have to be perfect at the end of the day, but some cleanliness does tend to help. Next up, I'm going to pull out some, you could choose either deer hair or elk hair. It depends on how nice it is. Primo deer strips from Hairline is typically my go-to. In this case, I have some super premium elk that I'm going to be using. I like the buoyancy of it. So you can see right now I'm stacking, cleaning, getting any of the underfur, of which there's very little, out of the way. And we'll put it through the hair stacker. And next up, we're just going to tie it in. You can alternate your tail length too. Make it a little bit longer or shorter, and just kind of make the fly your own. No real set rules here for this pattern. I feel like it's been pretty well modified throughout the years. So if I had to take a guess, I probably have about 20 to 30 strands of elk. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this all the way up to where we're going to put the wing in. Reason being is I do want a little bit of bulk in there, and I think it'll help aid in the buoyancy of the fly. So we'll go ahead and trim off all of the excess once we get to roughly our 2/3 waypoint. Might be a little bit different than 2/3, but that's what we'll call it. And I'm just going to go ahead and lash this down. It does kind of compress some of the hollow fibers, so hopefully there's still some decent buoyancy left in there. But at the end of the day, this fly has enough hackle to make anything float. I'm going to be using some small ultra wire. This is a hot orange color. Feel free to tie this in a multitude of bright, fun, poppy colors if you want. I'm going to go ahead and tie it in down the side. It's just my personal preference. I don't think that it makes a huge difference where you do this. So I kind of smooth that out as well, get it kind of bound into that elk hair. And it's just the style that I go with. So I'm going to be using some top flight, dry fly dubbing, and kind of be using somewhat of a burnt-ish orange type color. They call it light brown, but I feel like it's kind of more of an earthy orange brown color. So, this works great for like your salmon fly hatch, make them yellow for your stonefly hatch. You can shrink them down to fit pretty much anything that you need. It's a great, great versatile pattern, and probably one you shouldn't be without in at least like 6 sizes. Go into any new river. So I kind of coarsely dub the thorax on this, or the abdomen. And the reason I do it like that is I really like bugginess, and I feel like that'll help you with some bugginess. And I kind of secure it all in right where we're at. Right where we stopped the last bunch of hair. Next up, I'm going to pick a furnace saddle. For those of you who don't know, typically like from my old packages of feathers, like furnace kind of had like a darker base, lighter outside. You notice some iridescence on there. I really, really dig that. So I'm going to tie it in butt section first for this pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap backwards. So you can see you're really getting some really killer body segmentation, and still having some of that brown, which is a little bit lighter. So I feel like that'll make it look super buggy. And I'm just going to go ahead and weave through the hackle here, and I'm kind of trying to hit it just on 2 points, mostly because I don't tie a lot of dries, so I want them to be as durable as possible so I don't have to tie dries again. As you know, I love tying steelhead flies and nymphs and stuff like that, streamers and so forth. Not the biggest dry fly guy in the world. Maybe I'm the weirdest dude out there, but I'll accept that title in this case. So I trim off the saddle hackle towards the tail. You get this nice, big, broad, buggy look. So next up, I'm going to kind of select some more of this really killer elk hair, and I'm going to stack it and go ahead and create a wing out of that. This is, again, where you can substitute in deer hair, or if you had, some other cool floating material, which I don't know about, you can put it in there too. But, and I'm not as concerned with the evenness of my tips as like, somebody who's tying for, a photograph. It's like, yeah, I want them to be stacked, but if there's a slight variation or, in the length, I don't think it's going to hurt you any. So I wrap through the fibers on multiple levels just to ensure that they get locked in pretty well. And that's really going to be like how I hold this wing section in. And right now, you could almost stop if you tied this all the way to the front and called it, I forget the name of the other fly, but I use it as like a big elk hair caddis for like an October caddis hatch. Kind of a great little hack that you can do is, do a lot of prep work for, stimmies for the spring, but also you're going to have some leftovers for the fall. And in that size 8, hook size, that's going to cover your October caddis as well. You can throw a full-fledged stimmy at them, but sometimes they do like just a little bit less for an October caddis. Next up, we're going to use some more top fly, dry fly dub, and a grizzly saddle hackle to finish out this fly. Buy the best saddles that you can afford. The better the saddle, the more of a genetically modified organism it seems to be, the better the barbule count is and everything like that. A lot of times you can skirt away with your bigger flies with a lower grade saddle though, just because they're not as desirable. It seems like a lot of the focus for the super high-end saddles is that size, 16 to 22, even smaller range. So like I said, I'm just going to incorporate some brown top fly dubbing from Hairline. It's their newest dry fly dub. Just some killer colorways, and I like the way that I can work with it. So if you have some old, super dry, whatever it might be, you can use that too. And again, for this pattern, I think bug ear is better. We're not tying for photos. We're tying a replication of a bug, and so I'll take a little bit of loose wrap here or there, some fluffy hanging off. I think it just adds to that suggestive nature of it. So we'll take a few wraps once we get up here to the eye, and try to push everything back a little bit, as you can see here in a moment. And if you have a few in front, you'll just get to pull them back and wiggle them out of the way. Nice little small head on this fly. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a big meal. They're rowdy and going to come after it. They're going to eat it. Part of me thinks when I fish this for like a salmon fly hatch that they maybe think of that as the overall face of the fly. I'm going to darken it up with a brown marker because I only tie with white thread, so it's a step that I do a lot. You can see I have a few strays, and again, it's not going to change the way you fish. We're going to coat with some flow, and I'm going to use that for our head cement. One thing you want to take into consideration, we have a lot of guys that I'm not racing to cure this. I'm letting it soak in, and the reason I use that clear thread is because it allows light to transmit through, and that's going to aid in a more thorough cure throughout the whole fly, with good saturation, everything like that. But that's just my little dirty stimmy. You can see it's got a nice broad wing pattern. Probably not the most compact thing to cast, so make sure you've got a good leader to turn it over. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll check you next time.